about to give it back, but didn't then, luckily, because I don't know what else I would have gotten. And all of these strange stories that I had in my head were in a way that I thought, if I tell this to anybody, people are not going to believe me, or else they are going to think this is really very strange. Or they will find this really strange, but it will be forgotten after a while. You tell these stories and then they go away again. I thought I need to write these things down because it's very bizarre, and it's not very few people who have this kind of thing happening. Then I started thinking about blogging, and before I was not very fond of writing weblogs. I actually am quite fond of my privacy. I don't really like so much, or didn't like that much, the idea of presenting my private life to a public I don't know. And also I did think that the pressure of having to produce something all the time, to be up to date and to make it be interesting, was something that I didn't really want to issue myself to. On the other hand, I thought there are so many people who have a right to know, who really want to know. We had a lot of people who gave support in all different kinds, who donated money, who helped me with the children, who offered all kinds of other help that we could use, and also all of our family, of course, had a right to understand what all of these details were about, and so I thought I need to write this down for people. And in the beginning I started emailing about it, and then I thought, okay, then why not blog about it? Then I have it all in one place, it's documented, and then the cops know about it anyway, so if they know about it, then probably everybody else can know about it also. I started blogging in the beginning of October, quite late. It really took me a while to make this decision. And in the beginning, only very few people read about it. I didn't know much about blogging. I didn't feel like getting into all of these little things that you can do to make your blog better known. But it was picked up rather fast, after 3 weeks, I think, by some other rather well-known bloggers, and then it got a lot of attention. The stories that I wrote in my blog are some stories that describe the search, that describe the arrest, that describe the situation in prison, then some describe this everyday situation with surveillance. All the very little funny things that happen that you don't really know whether this has something to do with surveillance or whether it's just some technical little problem that is just normal. But you're already wondering about this all the time. Is that normal? Is that not normal? Is that surveillance? Is that the cops? Is it not? Makes your head turn a lot. And it actually feels much better to just write it down and not think about it all the time. And then also I started writing about the details of the legal proceedings, which in itself are also really quite crazy, and have very many details where you didn't really think that in a democracy, or a so-called democracy like ours, legal proceedings against terrorists, which are considered to be the major threat against civil society or civilized society, would actually work on a level like this. The prison stories are shocking in a way, and in a way they are not. There's many people who live in prison. Actually, this is not special to terrorists, and it is very shocking, and most people don't know about these things. What I didn't know and didn't realize is that, for example, if people are in investigative detention, meaning they haven't been tried yet, they have to have friends or family who wash their laundry. You have to go there every week, pick up the dirty laundry, wash it, and bring it back once a week. I thought something like that would be happening in Russia maybe, but I really didn't realize in Germany it's like that. What is special about prison for terrorists in Germany, or so-called terrorists in Germany, is that you cannot touch the person that you visit. There is a window in between, and you have people sitting next to you by the federal police who are listening and writing down what you speak, and on the other side as well you can watch your partner, and then you watch the person sitting next to him, and you have a microphone that you talk through, and everything is being listened to, which is not very intimate. Specifically not if you haven't talked to each other for a week or so, and then you have something like that. The same goes for letters. It took me a long time to start writing letters. Andre got a lot of letters and postcards in prison, and I think this was really helpful for him. It is very nice if you get at least something from the outside world that is supportive, but for me it really took me a long time to start writing, because I had the feeling, basically I'm not writing to him, because the judge who has been signing all of these papers by the police asking for methods of investigation to be approved is the same guy who's reading all of my letters to him. So I had the feeling I'm not really writing to my partner, but instead I'm writing to some judge, and then my partner also gets to read it, and that's the feeling that I had, and that is not very, very intimate as well. Also, I thought in a way this was strange because I knew that my phone was being listened to all the time by that time, and it was easier for me to deal with this than to deal with the fact that a judge was reading the letter. It doesn't really make a difference, but it felt very different. There's many more things to be said about prison, but not today. When he was released from prison, something happened that got a lot of attention also because it was extremely scandalous, I think. And he was released from prison 3 weeks after he was arrested. He had a lot of things to carry because he didn't think before that, or well, none of this was planned basically, so he had a lot of stuff. His parents and I were picking him up from prison, and he had 2 big folders with files because he had just gotten those to prepare himself for other decisions to be made. And so, of course, the prisoners have a right to see their files. And his mother had a black bag that she normally uses for shopping, and so she gave him this black bag to put his files inside. And we went home. And the next day, he called his mother on the phone saying, "Why don't we all meet next Sunday for some coffee and cake, and you come by and the children, and we're all together and have a nice, very quiet and friendly and relaxing Sunday afternoon." And what happened then is that she also was not yet quite used to being listened to on the phone, and she didn't realize then that you shouldn't really be either ironic or non-explicit when you talk on the phone while the police is listening. And she said then, "Also, I would like to talk about the content of the black bag." Which resulted in the federal police hearing that, making the mistake of thinking that apparently it must have been, can't be any other explanation for that, some really drastic evidence must be in the apartment of the parents, which she is going to bring to the meeting, and then we are all going to talk about that. I don't know exactly how police think terrorists work, but the idea that you would put something very dangerous that you use for terrorist attacks in your parents' apartment and then talk about it on the phone is something I would not really imagine to happen, but apparently the police thought that is quite likely, and so they started following his parents around. They were included in the observation. They had actually considered raiding their apartment because of that evidence, and the idea was that they would stop them before they came to our house with this black bag of this really dangerous evidence and search their bag. For some reason, they didn't manage. These are 2 elderly people, very friendly. They don't usually run and jump, and it's, I think, not very difficult to just stop them in the street, but they didn't manage. And then, and this is written down in the files very nicely, and actually I thought that was really nice because it gave us something to laugh about. Several hours of phone calls Sunday afternoon. The federal prosecutor of Germany was busy and in her office, and the federal police was busy and in their office, and they had lots of phone calls going back and forth. Who was now going to go into our place and search? Because they had decided another raid was necessary because this evidence must be so important that they really need to get it. And several hours later, we had eaten all the cake and we had had our coffee and we were just about to go for a walk. Another bang on the door, and again the federal police searching our house, wanting to have a look at the black bag. And at that moment I really thought, this is a very strange game. We showed them the content of the black bag. We had a little screaming match because, again, the children were in the apartment. Again, we have lots of police, well, not as many, but police with arms who stormed into the apartment, who demanded that their orders were followed right away. And I wanted the children out. Our children are small. I don't think they need to see all of this. I don't think they need to make these experiences. And, of course, that was... Thank you. This was not possible. All of these legal procedures had to go on right away with the children there who stared at everything. They realized that it was only the files. They were told by the lawyers who were called by the time and really screamed at them very loudly that this is really the only thing that the police are not allowed to look at. The files to the proceedings given to the defendant to be used as a defense material, and that's something the police are not allowed to look at, but they did anyways. And then there were two police officers who kind of walked through our apartment and didn't, it was obvious and visible that they also didn't really believe in the necessity of this thing and didn't feel very comfortable. That's one of the stories that I wrote, and that was considered rather amazing by a lot of people. Another thing that I thought was quite bizarre to see is that we had video cameras before our house and behind our house that were videotaping everyone who was coming in and who was going out, and in a very detailed way. At 3 o'clock, Andre home with 2 children goes out, and 3:10 he and 2 children come back, and long lists of descriptions of stuff like that. They had put up the video cameras apparently sometime in the winter and hadn't realized that during spring trees tend to grow leaves. And realized, and this is also in the files, that the video camera behind the house couldn't really document anymore what was happening behind the house and who was leaving and entering, and so they took that back, and as a result, in the files you see it mentioned that since the video camera behind the house couldn't operate anymore properly and had to be taken down during this or the other attack, they couldn't completely exclude the possibility that Andre left the house and therefore may have participated in these attacks, which made me think that maybe we should ask for more video cameras rather than less. I couldn't get myself to actually demanding that, but I was wondering. Some of the technical little things that were happening were, for example, and this happened many times, that when I called from my mobile, Andre's mobile, then surprisingly I didn't reach him, but instead my own mailbox. This happened to other people too. It happened lots and lots of times that I had people calling me who said, oh, but actually I dialed Andre's number. And also it happened that the phones who seemed to be working okay and looked okay and didn't have a dark monitor or anything, actually didn't work when people called them and instead had crashed but didn't show. We had emails disappear, and that's something that I really found quite unbelievable. I didn't think this was technically possible. We had several instances where I actually checked this. For example, I administrate several mailing lists, and Andre tried to subscribe to one of these mailing lists, and his email trying to subscribe to the mailing list never appeared. And then I tried as a list administrator to subscribe him, and this also didn't work. The emails going back and forth around this issue never got to where they were sent to, and we took quite some time to trace these things, and still today it's unclear to me how that actually works, but it was amazing to watch when you look at your mailbox and you see something that's sent and you look at where it should be arriving and it just doesn't, and you do it a second time and then it arrives, but the first one just isn't there. We had funny behavior of our TV. This has happened already way before. I think you probably all know this incident, like you sit on your computer and you have boxes connected to the computer and your phone is being called, and all of a sudden the boxes of your computer do something like and our TV was doing the same thing, and had started also months before we knew about the investigation, and we had understood as much that we needed to put our mobile phones in some other room or turn them off if we wanted to be able to watch TV. And after the arrest, of course, I understood why this was happening all of the time. And but also I had been told by the lawyer that now, because everything that could be considered conspirative behavior should be avoided at the moment, I try to not ever turn my phone off. I try to not ever forget my phone anywhere. even though I was not, or am not, as far as I know, a terrorism suspect, I still didn't want to